Okay guys, just a little video here on how to print a thinner line in your model than the nozzle diameter you have installed in your printer. In my example, I'll be printing a 0.4 millimeter line with a 0.6 millimeter nozzle in Creality Slicer, and I'll show the setting availability in Cura, Creality Print, and Simplify 3D. You might want to do this if you are presented with a model that has a gap or void between the perimeters and or a squishy feeling after printing. Here, in this example, we see a small knob that has closely spaced nubs around its perimeter. As you can see, with the 6 millimeter nozzle that my printer knows I have installed, and all of my line widths set to 0.6 millimeters, same as the nozzle, that when sliced, we're left with a model that has a gap and only one external perimeter line that makes up each one of these nubs. Left all of these empty. So, how do we fill this empty space without changing nozzles or trying to match flow rates to increase overall line width? First step is simple. In the quality drop-down, we change outer line width to anything smaller. Here I'm going to change it to 0.4 millimeters and reslice. Now, when we take a look at the layers, we can see that all the way down to the bottom, it was able to fit another perimeter. And it filled that empty space, making those nubs a lot stronger when this knob is a fully printed part. You can even see here in the preview that the outer line or outermost perimeter is now thinner than all the others, and an additional line of infill or a second inner wall was created to fill the nubs. Now the second setting you must change is a simple checkbox that enables the slicer to make speed changes, which it uses to control the width of these lines. That is in the speed drop-down. Go down there to speed, and we see equalize filament flow. I'm going to allow everybody a moment to read that. So after we check that to allow it, make sure you slice after this to enable for the one that you print. Otherwise, the information won't be included in the G-code. Now, because I have two of these CR6s and because I'm no good at editing, I'll show the same model being printed on two of the same printers at the same time. One sliced without the adjustment and the other with. I use a single set of profiles for these machines as they print the same. I've also included a second model in each of these prints to show one thing only. Hopefully we will be able to see that the outside line moves faster than the inside lines. So first we're going to watch how it prints. First is doing the inside. Now it does a perimeter. This should be an inner perimeter. Hopefully the next one we'll be able to see as slower. the last one where it moves. Well, this is taking way too long, sorry. Well, we'll go to this one. Inside first, tiny bit of infill. Now the outside perimeters. See those holes in the nubs? Void spaces. Hasn't even come over, we haven't seen the outside of this one yet. In any case, I think you see what I'm pointing at there. So now let's travel over to the other printer and see how it's doing. Here we see the same two parts being printed on one of the same printers. I apologize. The last printer was not the printer with the settings enabled, obviously, from the holes in the nubs. But I was saying we should be able to see the outer layer going slower. That wouldn't have been the case. This is the printer with the settings enabled. So let's take a look at how it does. Tiny gap fill takes up so much unnecessary time. Well, so let's look at the top of this part here. Each nub filled. No gaps in the nubs. Now, these small setting changes can be very useful for small parts or things like D&D minis or figurines that need more detail than a larger nozzle can usually offer. You can also use this trick for other features in your model, like infill, to cut down on filament use. As promised, I said I would show the setting in a couple of other slicers. So that was Creality Slicer. Here is a Creality Print. Oh, and by the way, when you are looking at these settings, you must always show advanced settings or maximum, or let's go back to Creality real quick. You have to, in the box here, make sure you're showing all settings. Otherwise, I'm not sure that these things will show up for you. So back to Creality Print, you go to Advanced and down to Speed, and there it is, Equalize Filament Flow, and you check that box and you change your line width for outer wall line width to something smaller than the nozzle you've got installed. This one for me is unspecified, so it thinks I have a 0.4mm nozzle, but I don't slice in this one. It's new for me. In Simplify 3D, you go to Edit Process Settings. You also must show advanced, i.e. that's normal, You show Advanced to get all the settings. You've got to go to the rightmost tab at the top, Advanced. And these three settings right here, thin wall behavior, are what you're looking for. Choose how the exterior portion of thin walls should be printed. Choose how the interior portion of thin walls should be printed. How much overlap they can have determines the regular perimeters can overlap before they are converted into custom thin wall toolpaths. It is the same in the unupdated version, the last version of this program. Back to Advanced, thin wall behavior. Let's go over to Cura, as many people have Cura. Printer settings up at the top, like normal. Scroll down to speed, like the other ones. And this one is called Flow Equalization Ratio. Now the wording here is a little bit different than the other programs, so let's read this one. Extrusion width based correction factor on the speed. At 0%, the movement speed is kept constant at the print speed. At 100%, the movement speed is adjusted so the flow in millimeters squared per second is kept constant, i.e., lines half the normal line width are printed twice as fast, and lines twice as wide are printed half as fast. A value larger than 100% can help to compensate for higher pressure required to extrude wide lines. I find that quite telling. So I've been utilizing this feature for a while now whenever I have small features that I want to duplicate, but most recently I did all of these carbon fiber nylon parts in that fashion, as I always print with a 0.6mm nozzle, but I needed some more definition in some smaller features, and they turned out quite well, quite strong, especially being carbon fiber, I suppose, but I haven't noticed any loss of layer adhesion due to the outside perimeter being printed smaller, but I don't print whole parts that way, so I don't really have any data on that. Well, I guess that's it. I hope this helps people like it helped me. I know there's at least one person out there who really needs it. Bye now.